Murders at Karlov Manor draft season was a fun one here on the channel, and new Karlov Manor draft content has unfortunately come to an end, but that doesn't have to mean that MKM limited content has to end as well. Over the course of this format, I ended up doing 34 total drafts and earning a 7-win trophy in 12 of those drafts, putting my trophy rate at a whopping 35% to go along with my 67% game win rate over the life of the format. So it is now time to close out the Murders at Karlov Manor limited season, as I like to do here on the channel, with a little top 8 of my best drafted decks over the course of the entire format. I have included 8 of the 12 trophy decks to battle it out in a single elimination best of 3 top 8 tournament, and after 7 videos over the course of the next couple of weeks, we will be able to crown what was my best drafted deck in Murders at Karlov Manor. Now, to help me with this tournament, I've enlisted the assistance of longtime friend, viewer, and patron of the channel, George, who will be playing on my alternate account to act as my opponent for each of these 7 matches. And today, I will be playing a wild 5-color good stuff deck that was posted to the channel on March the 11th. This deck features 5 rares and mythics, and basically has a game plan centered around putting those cards onto the stack. It also runs 2 copies of Case of the Shattered Pact, which is very difficult to get going, but very powerful when it does. Early fixing and defensive speed like Gravestone Strider and Nervous Gardener helps this deck get to the late game and cast cards like Alquist Proft, Vannevar, and Doppelgang to end the game rather quickly. In this matchup, George will be piloting a Rakdos deck that was posted to the channel on February 21st and is the only deck in this tournament to feature 0 rares or mythics. Interesting that a rareless version of an archetype that did not perform very well in the format got a 7-1 trophy, but here we are. This deck has a simple game plan: play cheap creatures and get the opponent dead before they can win with their power. It features 3 copies of Runebrand Juggler, giving many of its creatures evasion. It also has 5 1-drops between double Festerleech, double Gorehound, and a Scapegoat. And it also has plenty of removal to clear the way for its creatures. Drop a comment down below to let me know which deck you think will come out on top, and I'll see you in the match. Alright, here we are in the first game of the tournament. Just note that I am recording this voiceover after the fact, as if in coverage. So that's how this is going to be working here. We kept this hand. It's not a great hand, but for those of you that watched this draft, most of the hands weren't great. Still managed to get the trophy somehow, but yeah, most of these hands were a little bit suspect on mana, though we do have Gravestone Strider in our opening hand to help, though they are off to a very fast and good start, so I think it's pretty easy to lead on the Strider here, as that is potentially a blocker and a fixer for our mana, although we're not really going to block anything on the battlefield right now, so can't really block that Festerleech. They'll keep hitting us down to 16, and what's the follow-up here? Another menace creature. Okay, so our options are basically just disguise a Fairy Snoop, pretty much. I mean, Extracted Confession isn't great. They would just sacrifice any one of their creatures. I guess this at least lets us potentially block a Juggler or something. So they do attack all, and I'm thinking about double blocking a Juggler. That does look what I'm going for, mainly because the Fairy Snoop can't actually flip up. At this point, we don't have the mana to flip that thing up, so it's just going to sit there as a 2/2. So I may as well offer the trade here. Looks like they'll trade with the disguised creature or have a trick, maybe? Nope. Just trading with the disguised creature, taking 3 again, down to 13. And what is the follow-up? A Snarling Gorehound here, I'm sure. And they've got nothing except 3 mountains and nothing to play here. So my first thought, why I tapped 2 mana here, is to play the Case of the Shattered Pact to get something. And I undid that so that I could just play a Vannevar, which seems better. It blocks a lot of what they have going on better. And they don't have any priority here, so might be a little color screwed. looking at Vanifar. If they got a way to kill it, they're probably going to do that. And they do. Not great for us. So, see if they attack with Juggler here. Again, because it's another Fairy Snoop, I'm probably just going to block. Again, not flipping that thing up anytime soon. And I'm sure they'll trade for it, and they do. Another mutation. Good card, but a little awkward here. So is Extracted Confession. Not the greatest in this matchup. We'll lead on Case, go get the blue for the mutation, and then I guess just pass it on back here. Don't really have any reason to be trying to race here, so they go ahead and play another Gorehound. Think about countering it, but I can't, so I don't. Land to the bin. Again, pointing out Extract is really not the greatest in this matchup here at all. And they've got Extract as well. So, unfortunately for me, I make a pretty big punt here. I don't know if it would have actually mattered in the end of this game, because I do, just for some reason in my mind, think, oh, Repulsive Mutation. Counter target spell, right? Well, no, it counters a spell unless they pay X, and X in this case is 2, which they can unfortunately pay, and here comes the oops. So they go ahead and pay it, and then, like I said, it is a pretty big punt, obviously, but you'll see how this game continues out and the fact that it probably just does not matter, even in the slightest. So we draw a land here, we can extract a 1/1 if we wanted, but I've got the mana to pay to make them sack their biggest creature, so I wait at least a turn to see if something better is going to come up here. Alright, let's just pump the Fester Leech. Take 5. Mutation doesn't do anything unless they cast a spell here. And they don't. And I honestly, it doesn't even do anything anyway, because... See? And then we draw Fane Ripper, which is a great card, except when you can't cast it, then it's obviously not that great. So I go ahead and cast the Extract here, just to get a creature off the board. It doesn't change the clock, unfortunately, because the Fester Leech can pump itself. Again, had I not cast the mutation when I did, we wouldn't have been able to block with the Gravestone Strider at any point, and when we did, it would have just been to chump the Fester Leech for 1 turn. Because now we're at 2, we got nothing else going on here, it's my turn, and we top deck a land to finish it off. So I really don't think the punt came back to matter all that much this game. Now, I am playing these games best of 3 here, without sideboards, just to eliminate some, mulligan feel bads, mana screw feel bads, and things like that. Get a better idea of both of the decks and have them go up against each other in a little bit more of an evenly matched game. So we're going to go ahead and keep this here with Nervous Gardener. Don't have the black yet for Crawl Whipcracker, but that's okay. I think we can survive. No 1-drop from them. That's usually a good sign. Also, no 2-drop from us. So what is their 2-drop going to be? The 2-drop of choice is probably a Runebrand Juggler, as I was going to say, as they do have 3 of them in the deck. 2 mana, 2/2 menace. Sure, so I'll just go ahead and play Gardener, make sure I can hit my land drops here. Looks like they'll hit us for 2. Can't do anything about that. And a follow-up disguise, sure. So I drew a black and I got so excited that I just put it on the battlefield. There's no way I could have cast Tin Street Gossip this turn, but I probably should have flipped up Gardener and then got something, but I'm just going to go ahead and play this here and pass it back, or do I flip this up now? No, just pass it back so they don't know what it is. Although, Oh no, don't pass it back. Just attack because I don't mind trading it off for a 2/2. Let's see if that's something they're willing to do as well. And it is. Okay, now we can flip the Gardener, go get our red. And it was a Night Drinker Moroi, which makes sense why they didn't, or why they wanted to trade it off, because they could not flip that up because they don't have 2 swamps here. They look like they're a little bit mana screwed. Another Juggler. Getting on that aggro plan, that's what this deck tries to do. And now we have the full rainbow. I was looking at flipping up Snoop and also casting Whipcracker, but we don't have the mana to do that. So I just go ahead and play the Gossip here. And do I attack? It looks like I do. I don't plan on blocking either of these Jugglers. They missed a land drop last turn and still haven't played one this turn, which makes me think they're just getting a little bit screwed on mana and not being able to hit those land drops, which is always not a great thing in this format, but you know, we had a lot of them last turn. So there's a Fester Leech and pass it back. So what could they have here? Shock, Galvanize. There's a couple of different things. So I'm kind of debating here if I want to attack with 10th Street Gossip into a potential Galvanize or something. I can also just attack with just the Snoop, and that looks like that's what I go for here. I don't really want to lose the Gossip yet. And actually, I don't attack with anything. So let's go ahead and flip up the Snoop, see what we find. Two lands. Sure, take a land. And I can actually play the Whipcracker and disguise the Hellion here, and I do think that's what I go for. And there we go. And it looks like it was Galvanize here. So I'm glad we didn't attack with the Gossip. Now we have decent blocks on their creatures, actually, even though they have Menace here. Yeah, pointing out that probably going to block with the disguised creature. Thinking about attacking with Fester Leech probably doesn't make sense since we have the Snoop, but I mean, I guess they could have. Yeah, so sitting here debating if I want to do that or not, or if I'd rather just flip up the creature and then it's a 6/7 reach. And I think that's what I go for here. So I go down to 8, which isn't super low just yet. Again, they continue to miss land drops, which is all good for us, and we're not like super pressured here. Extract a Confession, killing the Gossip. Not great news. They do still have priority, so it could be Felonious Rage or Shock, I guess, here. Counting up my mana if I want to flip and cast Strider, but I can't do that. So I think the best move is to just flip up the Hellion here and then block a Juggler with Snoop and Hellion. Agent, that should be fine. I got plenty of mana. Don't need that. Don't need the island in hand here. And let's see if they attack into all this open mana. I'd be shocked if they did. And they chose not to. So that's good news for the control deck whenever the aggro deck stops attacking. So we'll just flip this up, use our mana here, get a 6/7. They do still have priority again. Runebrand Juggler. That's in the wrong deck. Let's cast Strider and Juggler and not give anything suspicion so that we can actually block with our creatures against this deck. And I don't think it's worth attacking just yet. So we'll pass it back. If they had shock, they probably would have shocked the juggler there, so makes me think it might be Felonious Rage. And again, no attacks. Once again, if we can avoid attacks from the aggro deck, that's great. Lightning Helix, quite the draw here. That will go a long way in helping us stabilize with our life total and killing a creature. Thinking about something pre-combat. And I don't think there's any reason to Lightning Helix anything now, so I just go ahead and pass it back. And they might have a kill spell here, debating on what to kill. That is what it looks like. I've got Helix, can't do anything about Snoop dying, so we'll pass it back here. Now they've got their lands. And Bustle is the card. So the other side of Bustle is Hustle, which can be cast for 1 red. So that's what they were having priority for that whole time. So I go ahead and Helix this in response. But they still do have a bunch of creatures that can attack here, and there's no reason to not really attack with them. I don't think, because then they just turn into a bunch of nothings again. So debating what to eat here. Take 7, go to 4. A little risky, but we only lose 1 creature in this exchange. Mutation could be interesting for a surprise lethal. But I still don't think I can attack because the juggler has Menace. So I pass it back, and looks like they drew a land, so we'll play Alquist Proft here. Nice little draw. And actually, they didn't draw a land, because they do have priority. So what is the play? Oh, that's... okay. Makes sense. Can't do anything about that. I could give it +2 counters, but it still dies here. So have to just let that happen. Not too bad that they had to get rid of a creature to do that, but I think now I can actually afford to start getting in there, because I do still have a blocker, and they've only got 1 power on board. I've got a counter spell here. This time it will actually work if I decide to use it. Okay, maybe they did have 2 lands in hand here. Let's go ahead and crack the clue, see what we could find. Vanifar, pretty darn good draw. Play Vanifar. I guess play the land in case they have, I don't even know what. Well, just giving us more counters for mutation, I suppose, or more lands for mutation. We'll go ahead and cloak the Vein Ripper as a 2/2, and then we can actually go ahead and get in there with both. And we turned this one around quite nicely. There was a very, very clear turning point in that game when we were finally able to get a blocking board down, and it looks like they did kind of flood out there toward the end. So they screwed at the beginning and flooded at the end. So we are going on to game 3 in this matchup. And I'm assuming we will be on the draw. That is true. Now, pretty darn bad hand here, except for the fact that Gravestone Strider makes it remotely keepable, because then we can cast either Gardener or They Went This Way on 3. Looks like they unfortunately had to take a mulligan. But we'll keep it off of the back of Strider here and hope that Strider doesn't get killed. All right, Gorehound on one, but only 4 cards left in hand, and there's a forest, so that makes the hand actually quite a bit better. Okay. Yeah, this is very on brand. Rune brand, to be exact. There's a forest. We'll just go ahead and play Strider, and then we have to decide between Disguising Gardener and casting. They went this way next turn. Both of their creatures have Menace, so we still can't really block them. Getting rid of Bolrac Clan Basher. Makes sense when you don't have a lot of cards in hand. 10 Street Gossip might actually solve that problem for us, because that way we can guarantee having a red next turn, even if Strider dies to something like Galvanize here. So let's ramp and get that. Makes the Vein Ripper worse in our hand, but we haven't needed that. Vein Ripper has been unnecessary in this matchup so far. It's shown up a lot, but never hit the battlefield. Alright, and Strider does go down, so I'm glad we were able to get that red. But this is a way they can get back into this game. Now they do get to solve their case. So I think it's a pretty easy... I think 10 Street Gossip for us here. We could play a Disguised Gardener and crack the clue, but I mean, I think just getting a 4/4 Vigilance is better. Still only 3 lands over there. Crack the case, see what they find. 2 lands and a Fester Leech. And they choose to attack with the Fester Leech here. So clearly have some sort of trick. I have to take 3 no matter what. If I don't block the Fester Leech, then I take 6. It feels really bad to block the Fester Leech here, but I'm getting to the point of my life total where it's quite risky to not make this block. I'm sure they're going to have some sort of trick that's going to kill the Gossip here in one way or another. And it is Slice from Shadows. It is a 2-for-1 in our favor, but we don't have a lot going on for us right now, so that might have been an advantageous trade for them. Let's see how well we top deck out of it here. Let's go ahead and get our first black on the road to Vein Ripper. And I guess Strider does count as our second black on the road to Vein Ripper, so we can now trade Gardener for Juggler, which isn't bad for us here. Agent, fine, we've got the lands. So let's get rid of Forest here. And let's see if they do attack. Attacking with both. So they have another combat trick or something in hand. I still am fine trading Gardener for Juggler here, so I'll do that. It looks like they are too, and we're at 8, and they're starting to run out of gas. Now, it's a really interesting spot here, top decking Panther, because I could cycle it for a swamp and then guarantee myself Vein Ripper next turn. Or I could just play a 6/5 Trample, which is also just pretty good. So it's a tough spot here, but I opt for just playing the creature. Because again, we're like, if we draw any black source, we can still cast Vein Ripper off of Gravestone Strider here. And now they don't have any attacks and we're at 8. And this is the turning point of these kind of games, again, like last game, where we get to a spot like this and now we're the aggressor. let's crack the clue. Finding a swamp would let us cast Vein Ripper, but we don't. But Vanifar is also great. And honestly, that should probably do it here. That's a 3-4 that comes with the 2-2, and they don't really have anything going on in their hand. So just going to go ahead and put the Vein Ripper down, and then probably just attack with my 6-5 now that I can actually afford this kind of thing. They take 6. Galvanize the Vein Ripper. Okay, well, we weren't flipping it up anytime soon, probably. So, sure. And no attacks. Again, good things. Although lands are not good things for us. We've got the Extracted Confession, which just doesn't really do much in this matchup, but it is a little bit of protection here. So we'll attack with a couple of creatures here. Hit them for 9, probably. All right, they double block that. So do they have Shock in hand? Do they have Felonious Rage? Sure. So they get a 2-2 and kill Vanifar here, but we still have a 6-5 and they're at 8. Yeah, that's all pretty good for us. So that resolves. They found a 2-2. But at this point, with a 6-5 trample, this is probably going to be game here. Another land, but let's go ahead and cast Extract a Confession, get rid of one of these 2-2s, trade our 2-2 land off for the other one, put them to 1, and I can't really see them having a way out of it at that point. There they go, to 1 and a land. So that means that this wild 5-color control deck has won the first matchup in this tournament. You can see an updated version of the bracket on your screen now. 5-color control wins today and will take on the winner of Black-White Bombs and Boring Boros, which will play tomorrow here on the channel. If you enjoy this series, go ahead and tune back in for that match. Should be a good one. Hope you guys enjoy this format kind of thing than what I'm doing here. And if you do, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you tomorrow for your daily draft.